morning everyone. Before starting today's session, those who are going to attempt tomorrow's prelims examination, wish you all the luck for the examination. Just a moment, I would like to share here that yes, this prelims examination is the examination of temperament. It is the examination of temperament. So don't worry about, let's say your revision is not complete and you have not read this and that, ये current affairs complete नहीं हुआ है, वो सारी चीज़ें. Rather think that you have read already throughout the year or 2 years that you are preparing for this examination, and focus on keeping your mind calm here. Why? Because if you keep your mind calm, whatever you have read in last 1 or 2 years, you will be able to remember in the examination. If you get panic in the examination, then you are not going to attempt those questions in a right manner. Okay, so basically that's why I am telling you it is the examination of temperament, and it is competitive examination. एक दो question आपने गलत कर दिया तो आप competition के बाहर हैं as compared to your competitor, right? So focus on this aspect. Today you just be calm in your mind, have a sound sleep at night for 6 to 7 hours minimum, and tomorrow you have breakfast in the early morning before going to the examination. At the same time in afternoon you carry whatever the lunch box that you are going to carry, वो साथ में लेके जाइए. पता नहीं सेंटर के यहाँ पे क्या मिलेगा खाने के लिए, नहीं मिलेगा, ये बहुत सारा प्रॉब्लम होता है. Already it is summer, so keep water bottle with you, keep hydrated. CSAT में भी आपको 100% देना है, वहाँ पे भी casual नहीं लेना है, right? So best of luck once again. Yes, so 4th June 2022. Let's see which are the important articles from today's session. Right, so look at the first page on bottom side. New opportunities for e-waste recyclers. So the context of this article, last month the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change had released draft notification on e-waste management, okay, or e-waste material management. So with that context this article is written. So what we will do in today's session, we will cover the details of that notification, what that notification talks about, the targets for e-waste management, different kinds of certificates will be issued, like extended responsibility certificates will be issued, and these can be used as a same manner like carbon credits. ठीक है, तो ये हमें मेंस एग्जामिनेशन के लिए इम्पॉर्टेंट है. GS3 पेपर इकोनॉमी पार्ट एंड एनवायरनमेंट पार्ट. दिस इज गोइंग टू प्रमोट सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी. ओके, नाउ come to editorial page. See on page number 4 on bottom side, on page number 4 on bottom side, fresh impetus to Jal Jeevan mission in Rajasthan with new committees. So the state government has established the different committees under Jal Jeevan mission. What are the names here? They are water and sanitation committees. These have been established at district level and state level, district level and village level. So these committees will oversee the implementation of Jal Jeevan mission. Now you should know the basics of government schemes. Jal Jeevan mission launched in 2019 so as to provide the tapped water connection to all households in rural areas by 2024. The target year is 2024. Okay, so tapped water connection is very important, and this not only talks about water connection but it also talks about sustainable use of water resources at local level. So it talks about water management by the community itself. Okay, so it also talks about grey water management. It talks about, let's say, whatever the water sources are there, it also talks about, we can say, cleaning of those water sources, or purification plants will be established there, water purification plants, right? All these aspects are covered there. It also talks about traditional water structures, water sources and their harvesting, their rejuvenation. Okay? Yes. Now come to page number 8, editorial page. On left hand side, two editorials, control and delete. the government committee is not the solution to the problems with social media. Now, yesterday the government had come up with let's say, or ministry of we can say information and technology, electronics and information and technology. So the ministry has come up with draft regulatory guidelines, or we can say notification, by amending IT rules 2021. It seeks to amend those IT rules 2021. Okay, so what this particular amendment provides for? It provides for establishment of committee by the government. That committee will look into the grievances of the people which are not solved by the social media companies. Suppose I am the user of social media company and I am, let's say, having one grievance with that platform. Suppose my data is leaked or any kind of grievance that you are. So first of all, you will talk to the grievance officer of that particular company. Okay, if the grievance officer is not addressing that problem, grievance satisfactorily, then the person can approach to this government committee. Okay, so this particular initiative is being criticized from different parts of, we can say, let's say, expert, especially by the media. Why? Because this is obstruction to freedom of speech and expression. It is restricting that freedom of media, freedom of social media, we can say that. So Article 19 of the Indian Constitution, that is at stake here. Okay, so regulation of media by the government is not good idea. External regulation on media, that part is discussed here. GS2 paper, governance part. On bottom side, gradual engagement, India-Afghanistan relations. So yesterday we talked about Indian diplomatic mission sent to Afghanistan, right? So senior officials from Ministry of External Affairs visited Afghanistan. So with that context, this article is written. So in the second part, the article talks about the three interests that India is having in Afghanistan at present, which it wants to secure. Which are these three interest objectives? We will talk about them. Okay, there can be question in mains examination, GS2 paper, IR section. Fine. Okay, other articles that not that much relevant. Now come to page number 11. See here, two ministers explaining government stand. Wheat export ban not against farmers. It is to ensure adequate stocks for local use. Okay. Then on bottom side, India not conduit for Russian oil, External Affairs Minister. See, why this article is there? Because or let's say reply is given by the External Affairs Minister. There are some allegations, there are reports in the international media that India is importing oil, crude oil from Russia at concessional rates, and then it is, let's say, selling this to other countries. So basically there are allegations that Indian oil making companies or oil marketing companies, petroleum companies, they are profiting from the war situation. तो कोई भी country ये allegations तो accept नहीं करेगा ना, right? Of course, yes, India is not conduit for such kind of crude oil from Russia. This is what the statement is saying. Rather, he is saying that already there is demand supply gap for crude oil use in the country. Huge demand is there and supply is less. Okay, and because of that, very high cost is also there. So whatever the domestic demand for crude oil is there, that is being met through, you can say, imports from Russia. This is the explanation given by our External Affairs Minister. He is again, let's say, criticizing the European countries by being the double standard. They are criticizing India, but they themselves are giving exemptions to European countries for importing natural gas and crude oil from Russia. Right? So again, this is, we can say, the explanation. You should be aware about what is going on in IR section. Right. Now on page number 12, keep ESZ, eco-sensitive zones of 1 kilometer around forest, Supreme Court. So up till now the government was implementing eco-sensitive zones policy in certain, we can say, protected areas. It was not implemented for all protected areas up till now. Now the Supreme Court has given the directive to the central government and state government to ensure 1 kilometer buffer area, that is called as eco-sensitive zone, around, we can say, protected forest, that is national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, tiger reserves, all these protected areas are there. Okay, so again quickly we'll revise from prelims perspective, what are eco-sensitive zones or eco-fragile areas, ecologically fragile areas, environment section, prelims examination. Fine. On page number 13, Ukraine looks to India for help with post-war rebuild. Okay, so this is also very important aspect. Ukraine country is looking for humanitarian help for India, from India, after, we can say, the war is over. So this is good thing, and India can contribute for reconstruction purpose or rebuilding of Ukraine after war. And this will further boost the economic ties with that East European countries. Up till now, you should know East European region is least, let's say, economically tied region to India. So economic relations with East Asian countries, East European countries, not Asian countries, East European countries are very less. So this will be good thing. Why? Because Ukraine is having huge amount of mineral resources. Okay. So it will be very, very helpful for Indian economy in future. Okay, so let us discuss these articles now. First one, gradual engagement. Diplomatic delegation to Kabul. Yes, recently the senior officials from Ministry of External Affairs visited Kabul or Afghanistan, and yes, this is, we can say that, a very important development, as India shut down its embassy in Kabul in August 2021, days after or days before Taliban takeover, but has maintained line of communication with them. ठीक है, तो दोहा में या बाकी ईरान में जो हमारी एम्बेसी है वहाँ से उनको कनेक्ट करके रखा है उन्होंने, कम्युनिकेशन लाइंस. Now, also later India sent humanitarian assistance including wheat, COVID vaccines and winter clothes to Afghanistan when the country was facing near total economic collapse last year. Okay, so this is how the progress happened. At the same time, the different delegation level meetings happened in different countries, not in Afghanistan but in other countries. So where Indian officials met with Taliban government officials also. Okay, so initially India was hesitant for talks with Taliban leaders, but later slowly they started communication. Now, what is important for us? Three main concerns when it comes to Taliban's return to Afghanistan. What are these three concerns at present, or we can say India's interest that needs to be protected? First thing is that India has invested hugely in Afghanistan in last 20 years. Okay, investment in terms of infrastructure like hydropower construction, road construction, even the parliament building of Afghanistan, training police forces, we can say schools renovation, जैसे अभी जो हुआ था वो school renovation हुआ था, या power grids जो है वो establish करना. All this is basically India's investment in last 20 years, and we need to protect that investment and reap the benefits. We have not yet reaped the benefits of that. At the same time, we have created some kind of good image among the people of Afghanistan through such kind of humanitarian efforts, and we can say that investment. So we don't want to lose that image. First concern. Second concern is that we can say anti-India terrorist groups. So when in 1990s, when Taliban came to power in Afghanistan, what happened is it provided safe haven to anti-India terrorist groups. Okay, and at the same time, that during that, let's say 4 or 5 years of rule, the militancy in Jammu and Kashmir also increased. Okay, so we do not want that repetition at present. We do not want that repetition. And third thing is basically, see, Taliban is the brainchild of Pakistan. Okay, and even at present, most of the, let's say, decisions, they are taken in consonance with the Pakistan's policy. So we do not want this thing. We want independent Afghanistan, be it ruled by Taliban or other leaders. But we do not want Taliban to be a puppet of Pakistan. Okay, again that will be very harmful for India's interest. So ये तीन concern हमारे at present, it is, let's say, three concerns where we are, let's say, focusing on when we talk about India-Afghanistan relations. Now what should be the, let's say, analysis and way forward regarding this? The analysis, we should understand that we should not grant the diplomatic recognition immediately. We should not give diplomatic recognition to Taliban government. Okay, why? Because at present, not, let's say, many other countries or major countries, they have not given the recognition to Taliban government. Okay, so India also should not give that recognition. Why? Because basically it is not inclusive government. It is almost men only government. Also only, let's say, Pashtun men, only one community is there, not other communities or tribes of Afghanistan. Okay, then it is, we can say, not or we can say that it is women's rights. Again, it is becoming so many, let's say, problematic to women in Afghanistan. At the same time, human rights violation. All these aspects are important for what values that India promotes at international stage, right? So it is not good for India to give immediate recognition to Taliban here. So what we can do at present is, yes, open channel of communication. Huh? Yes, we can say that it is occupied, we can say it is not elected, not representatives of people. So democracy is not there, of course. Of course, democracy is not there. Okay, they are not representatives of the people. So open channel of communication should be maintained, and along with that, we can say that talk with other countries to pressurize Taliban for more inclusive and representative government. Representative government. This should be the way forward at present. Okay. So GS2 paper IR section. Fine. Moving on. Control and delete. Yes, new draft proposal by Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. Yes, this particular proposal by the government says that any aggrieved person can appeal against the decision of social media company's grievance officer before new grievance appellate committee that is being established by the government. Grievance appellate committee. Okay. This committee, which will have chairperson and members appointed by the central government, will look into these appeals and decide on them within 30 days, and its decision will be binding on the company. This decision will be binding on the company. The amendments are open for comments from stakeholders till 22nd June. So it is draft proposal. It is in public domain for seeking feedback from the stakeholders. At the same time, at present, you should know that when this committee was not there, the appellant or aggrieved person could go to court to seek justice. That will also be the channel available for appellant, or we can say aggrieved person, along with this appellate committee. Okay, so complainant will continue to have right to seek judicial remedy also simultaneously. Now you should know the background here. Why? Because many of you may have started the preparation just now. Last year in the May month, basically the government implemented these rules. IT Intermediary Guidelines and Digital Media Ethics Code Rules 2021. Now at that time it was very much in news and was criticized a lot. Why? Because of government control over social media. See, any media in a democratic country need not to be controlled by the state. Then there will be, let's say, violation of fundamental rights, civic rights, of freedom of speech and expression, freedom of press, freedom of media. So that's why it is generally said that there should be self-regulation of media, self-regulation by themselves. Like for example, at present in India we have Press Council of India. Basically it is promoting self-regulation. It is independent organization, right? So in the same manner for social media at present or before these rules, there was no regulation as such. These companies were having different kinds of their internal mechanisms so as to ensure the media freedom, and all these regulations were there, but comprehensive and uniform regulation was not there. With these rules, basically the government wanted to regulate especially the digital media platform. Digital media, let's understand this nitty-gritties. This platform mandates to enable identification of first originator of the information that undermines sovereignty and security of the state or public order. Okay, so it mandates the platform to provide the first originator. Now this was also criticized. Why? Because it is a compliance burden on companies. Why? Because see, first originator, finding first originator is very difficult. How we will understand? Only we will understand when it is typed for the first time. But most of the social media content or digital media content is copy pasted, cut pasted. So how do we understand that that person is the originator? ठीक है, तो ये जो है सोशल मीडिया कंपनीज ने बहुत यहाँ पे क्रिटिसाइज किया था. सेकंड थिंग, अपॉइंट चीफ कंप्लायंस ऑफिसर्स टू एंश्योर रूल्स एंड लॉज आर अधेर्ड टू. See, what is the responsibility of compliance officer? That internally all the laws and rules in the country are applied properly. वो देखना उनकी जिम्मेदारी है. Then there is nodal officer with whom the law enforcement agencies of the country will be coordinating. तो उसका external coordination with the government, law enforcement agencies, उसके लिए nodal officer है. And third is grievance officer. So the grievances of users, how it is connecting? One is connecting to the users, grievance officer. One is connecting to the law enforcement agencies, nodal officer, and one is looking into internal mechanism, that is compliance officer. Okay, then intermediaries have let's say have to acknowledge suspension, removal and blocking of any user account, any complaint from its user in the nature of request for the removal of information or communication link within 24 hours and dispose of the complaint within 15 days. So time limit, and that too very less amount of time limit is given here to act on those complaints. Then the intermediary concerned will be required to take all the reasonable measures to ensure accessibility of the services to the users along with reasonable expectation of due diligence and privacy. Now these rules provides for soft touch oversight mechanism, the word used by the government. They called it as soft touch oversight mechanism, and it provides for 3-tier structure. At the first level, the grievance redressal system at the level of each OTT platform or OTT provider. So it is for OTTs, over the top. ये जो चैनल्स होते हैं ना, नेटफ्लिक्स, अमेजॉन प्राइम एंड ऑल, तो उनके लिए भी ये रूल्स लागू होते हैं, इंटरमीडिएटरीज एंड डिजिटल मीडिया गाइडलाइंस. Okay, so for them there is 3-tier mechanism. So level 1, internal mechanism at OTT platform level. If suppose the person is not satisfied, then he can apply to level 2, a self-regulatory body collectively established by all OTTs coming together. Okay, so it is again self-regulatory, you can see here. So first two are self-regulatory, but even if suppose let's say the users grievances are not addressed here, then oversight mechanism by the government. So third level is here the government control. So it is for OTT platforms specifically, and for social media platform or digital media platform, this one is there. Okay. Now this created last year the problem that it is let's say breaching the let's say freedom of speech and expression, media freedom. ये तो freedom of speech and expression है ना, OTT platform. This is also we can say freedom of media, again part of freedom of speech and expression, right? So now the government wants to amend these rules, and the new proposal just now we talked about. Okay, the new proposal that just now we talked about here, it wants to have the appellate committee. तो अभी हमने देखा वहाँ पे ग्रीवेंस ऑफिसर था, तो ग्रीवेंस ऑफिसर से खुश नहीं रहा तो वो इमीडिएटली कहाँ जा सकता है, ये कमेटी के पास जा सकता है. नाउ व्हाट आर द प्रॉब्लम्स विद दिस? फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, इशू ऑफ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट. हाउ इट विल बी देयर कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट? What suppose the government itself is the aggrieved party? What suppose the government itself is the aggrieved party? So whether the government itself will be the judge of its case? Committee is being appointed by the government, and one of the party is also the government, and other party is that media platform. So how the principle of natural justice is at stake? It should be autonomous, independent, right? The committee. तो यहाँ पे है कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट. सेकंड, वी टॉक अबाउट फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच एंड एक्सप्रेशन. Freedom of speech and expression. So yes, of course this is also very important, Article 19. Then you should talk about democratic values. In any democracy, media, there should be self-regulation. There should be self-regulation rather than government or external regulation. Whenever there is external regulation or government regulation, there will be always chance that the government will, we can say, cut down the rights of the media, or we can say freedom of speech and expression here. Okay, so yes, you should be aware about all these developments. Governance GS2 paper. New opportunities for e-waste recyclers. So we are talking about let's say these draft notification for electronics waste management by Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. So what this notification talks about? Again, it is draft notification, it is not finalized. It talks about circular economy, it talks about e-waste management. So yes, a wide range of electronic goods are included in this notification. Consumer goods companies and makers of electronic goods have to ensure at least 60% of their electronic waste is collected and recycled by 2023, with the targets to increase to them 70%, 80% by 24 and 25 respectively. Basically, it is part of EPR. What is EPR? Extended Producer's Responsibility. There was one question in 2017 prelims examination. Extended producer's responsibility, sometimes seen in news, is related to ई-वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट रूल्स. सिंपल स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड क्वेश्चन था. ई-वेस्ट इज वेरी वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक फॉर यूपीएससी. लास्ट ईयर ऑल्सो दे आस्क्ड वन स्टैंडर्ड्स फॉर ई-वेस्ट हैंडलिंग एंड रिसाइकलिंग, राइट. R2 जो था ना, R2 वाला क्वेश्चन बेसिकली ई-वेस्ट हैंडलिंग वाला ही है वो स्टैंडर्ड्स का. So that's why UPSC is having more interest here, right? So there can be question in mains also regarding this. Companies will have to register on an online platform and specify their annual production and e-waste collection targets. So there will be more transparency here, compliance by the companies. Okay, then rules brings into effect the system of trading in certificates like carbon credits. That will allow companies to temporarily breach the shortfalls. Suppose any company is not able to meet the target, then that company can buy that certificate from the recyclers. See, recyclers are independent companies now, right? Anyone can, let's say, establish that company and sell that certificates to these electronic manufacturing companies. See here, a rule says lay out the system of companies securing extended producer responsibility certificates. These certificates certify the quantity of e-waste collected and recycled in a particular year by a company. An organization may sell surplus quantities to another company to help meet its obligations. तो उनके बीच में ही इसका ट्रेडिंग होगा, like carbon credits. Companies that don't meet their annual targets will have to pay a fine and an environmental compensation, but the draft doesn't specify quantum of these fines yet. Okay, then who is implementing authority? CPCB, Central Pollution Control Board. It will oversee the overall implementation of these regulations. CPCB. This is again statutory body established under Environment Protection Act 1986. Sorry, it is not under Environment Protection Act, it is Water Act जो है ना हमारा, ठीक है. तो वाटर एक्ट जो है, वाटर पोल्यूशन एक्ट, उसके अंडर ये है. ओके, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट have been entrusted with the responsibility of earmarking industrial space for e-waste dismantling and recycling facilities, undertaking industrial skill development and establishing measures for protecting health and safety of workers engaged in dismantling and recycling facilities for e-waste. So they are going to be facilitator here. The state governments will be facilitators. Okay, yes. Ukraine looks to India for help with post-war rebuild. Okay, so this is also good thing. Already what we have provided humanitarian assistance up till now. ओके, सो फॉर एग्जांपल जो है हमने कंबल, मेडिसिन्स, ये सारी चीज़ें भेजी है वहाँ पे. यस, they said that we are expecting more humanitarian aid, medicines, some technical and financial assistance also after the war. Till that, we can say total assistance from India, both from government and private companies, appropriates to 230 million tons. Sorry, 230 tons in weightage manner. Now the article also talks about economic impact of war on Ukraine. So yes, some facts are mentioned. They are saying that the GDP may drop by 30 to 50%, inflation can reach to 20% in Ukraine. Along with that, the war has damaged or destroyed up to 30% of Ukraine's infrastructure at the cost of $100 billion. तो आप अगर उनके यूक्रेन पे ही जो इम्पैक्ट है वॉर का वो लिखना चाहते हैं तो ये फैक्ट्स मेंशन कर सकते हैं, राइट. ओके, while we also know that, let's say, there is an unraveling of global food crisis due to blocking of Ukraine ports. Russia has recently proposed that it would establish humanitarian corridors in exchange of some kind of, let's say, relief or lifting of sanctions. वो बोल रहे हैं कि सैंक्शंस अगर आप उठाओगे तो हम एक ह्यूमैनिटेरियन कॉरिडोर बना के फूड ग्रेन्स को एक्सपोर्ट्स करने देंगे. Okay, but decision is not yet taken on this. Fine. Okay. Now keep ESZ of 1 kilometer around forest. Supreme Court. So this is the directive to the government. Supreme Court directed that every protected forest, national park, wildlife sanctuary across the country should have mandatory eco-sensitive zone of minimum 1 kilometer starting from their demarcated boundaries. Yes. So we all know that Environment Ministry implements ESZ policy, ecologically sensitive zones, but not at present, not all protected areas are having this ESZ. Okay. Yes, these zones would act as a transition zone from areas of high protection to those involving lesser protection. So it will act as a buffer. Okay. So in a series of directions, court held that in case of any national park or protected forest already has a buffer extending beyond 1 kilometer, that would prevail. So it is good thing. But in case the question, the extent of buffer zone was pending the statutory decision, then the court's directive to maintain 1 kilometer safer zone would be applied till the final decision is taken. तो जहाँ जहाँ अभी तक वो अप्लाई नहीं किया है ESZ, वहाँ 1 किलोमीटर तक उनको बोला है कि ये इम्प्लीमेंट करो, बाद में आपको क्या करना है करिए उसके ऊपर. ठीक है. Yes. So basics of ESZ, eco sensitive zone for prelims examination. Yes. See, these are the areas notified by Ministry of Environment around protected areas like national park, wildlife sanctuaries and all. The purpose of declaring this is to create shock absorbers to protect the areas by regulating and managing the activities around such areas. For example, simply the people living in the surrounding areas many times get their cattle into the protected areas for grazing purpose, and there is man-animal conflict and like these situations happen. At the same time, they are felling the trees for their domestic use and all. So ये रोकने के लिए, इसको कम करने के लिए, this will be acting as a buffer, shock absorber. Then they act as a transition zone from areas of high protection to the areas involving lesser protection. The Environment Protection Act 1986 does not mention the word eco-sensitive zones. Although this act provides some kind of, let's say, wordings from where the government of India uses this ESZ. What is that wording? Rule 5 of this EPA states that central government can prohibit or restrict the location of industries and carry on certain operations or processes on the basis of certain consideration. इसको यूज करके ESZ डिक्लेयर किया जाता है. Okay, so then ESZ could go up to 10 kilometers around the protected area as provided in the Wild Conservation Strategy 2002, Wildlife Conservation Strategy 2002. Okay, so remember that it is not mentioned in the EPA, Environment Protection Act. Rather, it finds some kind of inspiration or wordings that is mentioned here, rule number 5. From that, central government implements this. Okay, so on the basis of this, what should be answer here? Consider the following statements about eco-sensitive zones. We have to find the correct statement. So they are transition areas around the protected areas like national parks. This is correct. They are notified under the provisions of Environment Protection Act 1986. See, this is incorrect. Why? Because it is not notified under the provisions. It is not provided in the EPA. It is not provided in the EPA. Rather, we should understand that from certain wordings of EPA, उसको यूज करके उन्होंने ESZ लाया है. They have used this, the wordings that is there in the EPA to implement this ESZ policy. Okay, so we can say that it is not statutory provision. जैसे नेशनल पार्क एंड वाइल्ड लाइफ सेंचुरीज दे हैव स्टैट्यूटरी recognition. Okay, but like this ESZ is not having statutory recognition, and they can be up to 20 kilometers. This is incorrect. 10 kilometers. That's why one only is the correct answer here. Understood? Okay. Anything else? Any question from your side? Okay, let us stop then.